Starting with the setup, begin by taking your regular infantry and support units from the 4th and 5th Divisions and place them in the available for landing box on the map. Then take the infantry and support units from the 3rd Division and place them in the reserves box, also on the map. Take the Japanese units, put them face down, give them a good mix, and place them on the red-marked initial deployment hexes on the map. Roll for weather on the storm table, and then place the turn marker on turn number 1. You're now ready to begin play. Let's just have a brief look at our units. The values on these counters: the first number would be the attack strength of the unit. The second number would be the defensive value of the unit. And the third number would be the movement allowance for the unit. So we can see here, for example, this American tank has an attack strength of 4, a defense value of 4, and a movement factor of 6. We'll start off with the American regular movement phase. If you'd like, go ahead and stage and land any units you may want to bring ashore that are in the available for landing box. Move any or all of your units up to their full movement allowance, taking into account terrain restrictions and enemy zones of control. During this phase, your units can also redeploy. They have unlimited movement as long as during the entire redeployment they remain at least 4 hexes distant from any enemy unit. At the beginning of the regular U.S. movement phase, you can take up to 2 replacement steps for units that took damage or were eliminated in previous combats. You can either move units from the eliminated box back into the available for landing box, or you can give a replacement step to a damaged unit that's at least 4 hexes distant from its nearest enemy. Now is the regular combat phase, where you can attack the enemy with artillery support. Declare all of your attacks and which of your units will be attacking, and then place up to 2 artillery support markers on any Japanese enemy that you're planning to attack. Roll 1d6 for each artillery support marker you have placed on your enemy. On a roll of 1 to 3, that enemy unit will be suppressed. 4, 5, or 6, and the artillery bombardment failed. Once suppression has been determined, flip the unit over so you can see what his defense strength is. Both American units will be attacking the Japanese defender. Add the 2 Americans' attack value together, 6 and 6 is 12, and then subtract the Japanese defense value of 4. That'll give us a +8 differential for combat. Consult the combat results table, finding the terrain that the defender occupies. Find the differential, and then roll 1d6 to find your combat result. Check for any modifications to the combat result. For example, we attacked a dug-in Japanese defender, and then apply the result accordingly. Eliminated infantry units are removed from the map and placed into the eliminated units cup for potential replacement or redeployment later. Eliminated Japanese artillery, or HQ units, however, are placed on the Japanese fire support track. Place that eliminated unit on the highest available number. This will determine how many supporting artillery markers, bombardment markers, the Japanese get when their turn comes around. A really quick word about defender redeployment and defender redeploys in place. If a defeated enemy unit must redeploy, you're going to place them into the eliminated units cup, give that cup a shake, roll 1d6, and determine which Japanese sector the redeployment will occur. Then draw a unit out of that redeployment cup, eliminated units cup, and without revealing it, place it in the sector you rolled according to the redeployment placement criteria in the rule book. For example, the very first place it should go is on a hill. If more than one hex is eligible, you can roll a die to determine placement. I like to just go ahead and place the unit in the hex I think will be most beneficial to the Japanese. In the event a defeated enemy unit has to redeploy in place, simply take the defeated unit, place it in the eliminated units cup, give it a shake, draw a unit from the cup, and without revealing it, like I just did, without revealing it, simply replace it in the same hex. In the event that Japanese unit has to redeploy and the eliminated units cup is empty, follow the procedure for Japanese bombardment, which I'll be discussing momentarily, and you'll simply swap that Japanese marker for another defender in a different sector. Next up are the U.S. mobile movement and mobile combat phases. The mobile movement and mobile combat phases are the same as the regular movement and combat phase, exceptions being that any units that you move may only move up to half of their printed movement allowance. Also, you can perform combat with any unit, but there will be no preliminary bombardment allowed. No supporting artillery. Word to the wise, any units you have on beach hexes that you may have landed in the previous movement phase, now might be a good time to go ahead and move them off the beach. Time to move on to the Japanese movement phase. The Japanese can receive one replacement each turn. Roll 1d6 to determine which sector the replacement will go to. And if that sector is still occupied by Japanese units, draw from the eliminated units cup, and then place the unit unrevealed with its dug-in side showing according to the replacement terrain priority in the rulebook. Next up, check for Japanese bonsai attacks. The bonsai attack is resolved with a series of die rolls. First, to determine if a bonsai attack occurs at all. The second die will identify which sector the bonsai attack will take place, and the third die will determine how many Japanese units must attack. Next, flip the Japanese units to their face-up side, and then move those Japanese units toward the nearest American unit. Determine the attacker-defender combat differential, and roll 1d6 to find the appropriate result. Japanese banzai attacks will be resolved on the regular combat modifier column. Once a banzai attack is completed and any damage results to your units have been applied, all Japanese units that participated in the banzai attack are automatically placed in the eliminated units cup. They're done. Next up is the Japanese combat phase. To check for Japanese bombardment, first have a look at the Japanese fire support track. The highest number on the support track will be the number of bombardment markers the Japanese will have available. Prior to the fall of Mount Suribachi, if it has yet to be taken, check to see if you've stupidly left any units hanging out on beach hexes. They will automatically be targeted with bombardment markers. Once that's completed, starting in hex 2812, proceed row by row in descending order, checking each hex occupied by an American unit for potential bombardment. For each targeted American unit, roll a number of die, and it'll be 3, 2, or 1 die, depending on whether or not Suribachi has fallen and a couple other factors, to determine bombardment strength. For example, here, there's a total strength of 11 for the bombardment. The American defensive value is not taken into account for bombardment. So the maximum, of course, would be plus 10. Find the appropriate terrain column for the bombardment and roll 1d6 to obtain a result. Then check the result modifications chart under Japanese bombardment to find out what the effect will be on your unit. After Mount Suribachi has fallen, target selection for Japanese bombardment is a little bit different. Starting with the northernmost hex in the northernmost hex row, check each hex in row by row in ascending order, checking each American occupied hex along the way for potential bombardment. And after the fall of Suribachi, beach hexes occupied by American units are not automatically targeted. Lastly, there's an administrative phase. Roll 1d6 for weather, and then advance the turn marker with the appropriate weather to the next turn. That's going to be it for Nuts and Bolts for Iwo Bloodbath and the Bonins. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Happy gaming.